Welcome, adventurers! I'm the Rambling Bard, and this gaming video is actually late. This was supposed to be out in October, and October was a really rough month for me for reasons we won't get into right now. But suffice to say that I got way behind, and we're pulling up on this a little late. So I'm going to be phoning this in the sense that there's not a whole lot of preparation to this. As a matter of fact, there's no script whatsoever. But I really wanted to talk about Dungeons & Dragons 5th edition with you today. Now, to give you a little bit of background on my experience with Dungeons & Dragons, I've been playing since early high school, and I started with AD&D, Advanced Dungeons & Dragons, which is basically the 2nd edition, from what I understand. I'm probably wrong on that, and we'll get corrected. It gets a little convoluted when you look back into the past of how Dungeons & Dragons started. As a matter of fact, it started as a series of pamphlets for the very first Dungeons & Dragons rules, and it was pretty strict, pretty straightforward in how you made your characters and how hardcore the math was, that sort of thing. But it's changed a lot over the years. A lot of the fundamentals are the same. You have the same kind of base classes. You've got melee fighters, you've got a healer, you've got magic users, and there's a couple of other options too. And we won't get into the minutia really of what all you can do in Dungeons and Dragons, but the one thing that I do want to say is that if you're playing in a fantasy realm, this is the best system that I've seen in a very long time to do this in. I played 3.5. I played 3.5 for the majority of my time playing Dungeons and Dragons, and has a lot of different skills, lots of feats, weapons scale, and can get crazy as far as big magical effects on them are concerned. And then you move into 4th edition, which changed completely. There have been plenty of videos out there about why 4th edition is bad or why it's different, so I won't go into that too much other than to say 4th edition got away from the roots of Dungeons & Dragons, which was a couple of guys were sitting around playing war games, which are like a Warhammer or Warhammer 40K. I don't know very much about wargaming on tabletop, but war games were you commanded fleets of miniatures, groups of miniatures, and it was more a tactics thing than it was about story. And the guys who were playing this wanted to know the story of each individual little character, so they made up Dungeons and Dragons to help tell a more narrative version of their story and help play a more narrative version of their story. So Dungeons and Dragons was born from that. 4th edition got away from that, I feel, is kind of the gist of my feelings on it, which is really all this video is about, is my feelings on Dungeons and Dragons. And 4th edition became a game of miniatures again. Granted, it still left room for role-playing, and that still was entirely up to the player and the DM. But a lot of the character builds and that sort of thing were just fundamentally different from so much that Dungeons and Dragons had been for years. And it was a big divide for a lot of players. We saw a lot of people burn the jerseys, so to speak, of Dungeons and Dragons and move to a system called Pathfinder, which was in part semi-created by one of the 3.5 or 3.0 creators for Dungeons and Dragons, something like that. Monty Cook, I believe is his name, was involved in Pathfinder. A lot of people know a lot more about that than I do, so again, not going to get into that. But Pathfinder was what people considered to be Dungeons and Dragons 3.75. It was what 4 should have been in a lot of people's eyes. And if you were to look at it in a evolutionary chain and looking at the development of the systems and the inner workings, I would say that would very much stand to be the case, is a 3.75 or what 4 should have been, I think, and which would have led more smoothly into 5. And the cool thing about 5 is they took Pathfinder into account. Wizards watched our reaction and went, ooh, maybe we didn't do a good thing. They stuck with it and they finished out their edition, but in the end I think that they realized their consumers were not happy and that a lot of brand loyalty got shattered over that because the game had changed so fundamentally. To give an example for somebody who may have never played Dungeons and Dragons, Wizards didn't have spellbooks. They lost their spellbooks. And even if you've never played D&D, like, that's the thing about Wizards. They have a spellbook. Like, even in the B movie Merlin's Shop of Mystical Wonders, which MST3K did. Yeah, I'm dropping my favorite MST3K episode name right here. Um, even in that, the entire thing was about Merlin's book. The first half of the movie, anyway. The first episode. So, my point is, 4th edition got away fundamentally from what Dungeons & Dragons is. And I believe that 5th edition has really come back to it. It's come back home and modernized and done a whole bunch of really things I'm super excited about. And one of which is the inclusiveness of the art and the narrative just within the books itself. So for a long time, let me look at my stream here so I can see kind of what you're seeing. Yeah, that's about right, actually. For a long time, we've seen a lot of just white characters. There's Drow, of course, but that's another video. I want to talk about Drow and racism in fantasy realms and stuff like that, and my thoughts on because I saw like a tweet or a Tumblr post forever ago that was like, Drow are literal representations of to be black is to be evil. And here's why I would argue that, because, again, separate video, but look at the human entry here. There's plenty of black humans in the sense of black as we call it in our world. Drow are the color black, like this plastic. And there are very, 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 very few, I don't think if any, black-skinned humans that actually go this black. I've seen some very dark ebony-skinned men and women, and it's still very, very, very dark brown. The colloquial black that humans have called that skin color is different from what the Drow skin color is. The Drow skin color is quite literally, pitch black. No human actually would have skin like that. But I'm getting into a whole separate thing. This is my favorite. That's, again, a separate video for a very good reason. But this is one of my favorite things, is the inclusiveness of other people. It starts shattering this stupid idea among nerds that high fantasy must be white people only because only white people were in Europe or whatever that bullshit is. You've got Asian elves. Like, let me find the picture of our clearly, Asian influenced as far as like facial structure and that sort of thing. It's under customization, if I remember correctly. The art is gorgeous. I was not a fan of the 4th ed art. I felt, I don't know, I don't have it here in front of me as an example. I feel like the 3.5 and the 5th ed art are, I just love it. This is the aesthetic I want for my channel eventually, and that's coming, actually. One of the things I wanted to announce in this is that we've got some channel changes coming. I love my current channel art that my good friend and brother, in my opinion, Matt, made for me. But I'm aiming for this kind of look. I love the look of it being from a, Da Vinci's notebook or from the sketchbook of somebody doing concept art. And it's something that I've wanted to either do myself or do in collaboration with my wife. And the reason I've decided that is because she showed me just a doodle she did of herself. See, look, we've got all sorts of different nationalities within the races represented, and that just makes me really happy. I can't find that. I probably turned past it while I was talking. But there's a picture in the customization section. It's like a full-page picture of an elf with very defined Asian features, and I think that's cool. The wizard is black. That makes me so happy. It's not just a little. It's not one or two. It's the main characters, and it's the other thing along the lines of that inclusiveness is I love the fact that not only do they alternate pretty regularly, or they try to within the book and classes between he and she, so as not to pigeonhole a particular gender into one type of role or anything like that. That's pretty binary, which is exclusive of non-binary folks. And here we go. Yeah. It's just gorgeous. All of the art is just gorgeous. I love the soft and rich tones. Everything about it's great. It's what fantasy art should look like. And this is just, this is just the player's handbook. I haven't really looked through the DMG, I'll be honest. I haven't looked through it yet. A whole lot. There's our monster manual. Now that's a werewolf. Hey, Harry Potter and the Prisoner of Azkaban movie maker and the illustrator I saw for the illustrated versions of the books. That's what a werewolf should look more like. Watch Van Helsing with Hugh Jackman. That's what a werewolf should look like. Bigger than a human, bigger than a wolf, and bipedal, but some amalgamation of the two. The thing that you did in the Harry Potter movie, like, probably going to be a separate video someday. I'm so angry about it. And the fact that the illustrator followed that in those beautiful illustrated books, like, I saw the werewolf page and I was just like, man, no, or lady, or person. I don't know anything about that illustrator. Anyway, yeah, were-tiger, were-wolf, some badass art. I love it. What? Intellect Devourer? I've never seen that before. Don't cry. We have no intention of eating your brain. In fact, your brain is going on a wonderful journey. Korik El Cirque, Mind Flare. So it's a tiny aberration. Detects sentience. So yeah, sorry. I get distracted. They've simplified all of combat. They've simplified skills. Wow. They've simplified but not reduced the amount of. They've simplified everything but not reduced the amount of options that you have. If you want to do it, you can. It just, more stuff falls under one category of skill. So, okay, mechanics aside. Dungeons and Dragons. First of all, this entire library, save for Curse of Strahd, which I bought myself. That was the first book I bought because I'm dumb and I'm a collector, and I really wanted a copy of Curse of Strahd because I like to watch the Waffle Crew. If you haven't checked out Dice Camera Action, fantastic group. Holly Conrad, I'm a huge fan of hers, and she's a huge inspiration to me to be a creator and to make things. Definitely check out Dice Camera Action. Episode 1 starts with them beginning the adventure of Curse of Strahd. I'm going to be running a Curse of Strahd true horror campaign, a little bit more serious probably than the Waffle Crew got around to doing. But that's okay. I just like running actual horror games. So it's supposed to be creepy and spooky and sad and bad and dramatic and stuff like that. We'll get around to it. This is the other part of the announcements, by the way. I am going to be launching several campaigns. I'm not sure which one will come first. More than likely my Monday group, because it's the one that's running right now. And we're getting ready to start a new module, which is also courtesy of the same woman who purchased these for us. One of my patrons, her name is Sarah Cheney, and she has been... I hope this doesn't make her feel too old. It's not supposed to, but she's been like a mom to me. And for those of you who know me, know that that's a big deal. And she believes in me and believes in this. And I think that that's amazing. So much so that not only is she one of my top tier patrons, but she has donated my entire D&D library, as well as the screen, the stack of modules and books that you see, that you might be able to see. It's probably out of frame. This back here, over here, this little skeleton dude, this little storyteller. Sarah has gifted me many things, and I am incredibly grateful. So Sarah, this video and all Dungeons and Dragons videos that I will make from here on out are in your name. And thank you for being such an amazing patron. And I look forward to sharing all the adventures that we can create with this together. So that out of the way, now people are like, okay, Bard, so what obviously this game means a lot to you. Why? I know a lot of other people can kind of associate with this, so I'm going to say it. It sounds weird and such, but I've never really felt like I belonged here, like on Earth, as a human being. I felt uncomfortable in my own skin since as far back as I can remember. I've always wanted to be a performer because I like pretending to be other people. I like the escapism. And really that's what D&D kind of is for me. It's more addictive than reading a book. I can devour these books. I had trouble putting down the monster manual just long enough just to make this video. You saw it firsthand. But D&D is a chance to read a story and be in that story and shape the world that you're in and shape yourself. There's a lot of deeper concepts to Dungeons and Dragons than I put on my robe and wizard hat, in the sense that it's kind of like reading. There's more to it than it's just, oh yeah, it's words printed on slices of thin pulped up wood. Reading's so much more of that than that. You know, it's so much more than any one genre that you could pick. You know, you say, well, what's reading? Well, it's the, if you're reading a book, you know, well, what are you reading? You know, I know there's, you know, a literal definition to the word reading. It's not what I'm getting at. But what is reading to people? You know, reading the newspaper for one person is the daily morning ritual that makes them feel better while they drink their coffee, because it's the, all right, damage report, what's going on? Reading Reddit instead of a newspaper or Facebook or Twitter or whatever your incredibly biased and incorrect news source may be, because they all are. I know. I'm not judging. I mean, if you watch Fox, then I'm judging, but reading Harry Potter, you know, is a comfort thing for people who have read it 100 times before. Getting to be somebody who can summon lightning with your hand. Somebody who actually gets to kill the monsters. Smite the demons. Put the bad guys in their place and see justice prevail. Or get creeped out. Like you might do for going to a haunted house or seeing a scary movie or something like that. And you play a horror campaign for a little while because you want to get the heebie-jeebies. And you got a DM that happens to be pretty good at it and has a wicked smile. D&D is clearly, I don't know if I would say it's making a resurgence. It's public popularity is making a resurgence, I think. And I think it's bringing in new players. And it sounds like it is, and that makes me really happy. Because people are doing all sorts of crazy shit with their campaigns. And that's just greatness. So, if you've never played Dungeons and Dragons before, but you're interested, leave a comment below. And if you have played D&D, but you didn't like it, leave a comment below. I'm curious to know what happened. And I'm curious if you'd give it another shot. If you have a favorite adventure that you want to share from your D&D stories, leave a comment below. I'll read it. I'm going to read all of them. I almost always do. I don't get a lot of comments, so it's pretty easy to keep up. Tell me your favorite D&D story. And if you don't have one, and if you'd like one, tell me in the comments. Tell me if you had a fantasy character, if you played D&D, what you think you would want to do. And I'll give you a few options. Would you want to hit stuff, protect stuff, blow stuff up with magic, make weird stuff happen with magic, heal people, or sing, or, you know, perform in some way, shape, or form? The last one's a bard. What's your fantasy character? What's your, if you could be somebody in the D&D world? How about that? If you can't think of any of these that you wanna do, if you could be anybody, you personally could be anybody in the D&D world. Race, class, gender, even. What would it be? I'll tell you mine. It actually matches up pretty well, or exactly, with a like 100-question quiz that I took forever ago that I think was an official Wizards thing, but it's old, so maybe obsolete. So if I can find it, maybe it'll be in the description below. Kind of doubt it, but I'll look. It told me that I was a half-elf bard. My ears aren't quite pointy enough in real life, but half-elves are, you know, of both worlds. You know, they don't ever really feel like they fit. And bards perform for a living. Having the ability to make some magic with that music, or with my performances. Hi, Kiki. That'd be pretty cool. Yeah. Ophi came to say hello. Get nice and close to the mic so they can hear you purr. Bye now. What? My cat's telling me that it's time to end the video. I've been rambling enough. Tell me your favorite D&D story, or your least favorite D&D story. If you'd ever be willing to try it again. If you want to try it, what's stopping you? Having trouble finding a group? Roll20.net's got lots of groups. Check out Reddit. They're always looking for groups. Reddit can be a scary place, so be careful. But I think that if you give your imagination a little bit of a chance, and let your friends be dramatic and act it out and do a silly voice and all that good stuff, and get lost in the game. To me, that's the best part about D&D. It's getting lost in the game and realizing, oh shit, it's like 3 in the morning, we gotta go. Alright, adventurers, that's gonna do it for me for this video. Once again, sorry about kind of phoning it in, not having any script to this and just kind of rambling, and guess what? No cuts, because fuck editing. Ha 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 ha. Wait, I did cuts at the beginning. Really can't. But remember, adventurers, life is a series of choices between fear and love. Are you afraid of a Sararak the Lich? Are you afraid of not knowing what you're doing at the table? Are you afraid of looking like a dork? Or do you love being dorky when no one's judging you? Do you love learning? Do you love a Sararak? Then play D&D. Remember, adventurers. I don't know what the hell that was. But choose love. Choose love.